On July 3, 2025, the Colombian Navy announced the seizure of the world's first remotely operated submarine, purpose-built for drug trafficking. The story caused a massive uproar. Where did this submarine come from? Who was controlling it? Unfortunately, those questions remain unanswered to this day. But here's what we did eventually find out. First, the submarine had a satellite dish connected to Starlink satellites, and through it, the submarine was operated and navigated. This is considered a massive breach of the Starlink network, since receivers are only supposed to be activated with official authorization. So how did a drug smuggling gang operate one without permission? Was there collusion between Starlink and the gang? Second, the submarine wasn't carrying any drugs at all. It was carrying bags of sand. It was purely a test run to check whether the route was safe. And this is the truly shocking part. This wasn't the first time. Before this, authorities had already discovered 4 sinking submarines that had been used to smuggle 25 tons of contraband. You might think that's not surprising, but what is surprising is that the person who invented these submarines didn't stop there. He invented stealth submarines that even the most advanced radar systems couldn't detect. My name is Musa. This is Midnight Verdict. This channel covers real crimes, unsolved mysteries, infamous investigations, and the cases that expose just how far people will go and how hard the truth is to bury. Every story is fully researched, every detail is verified, and nothing here is wasted. If you're new, subscribe now and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Let's get into it.
Today, I'm thrilled to tell you the story of the biggest smuggling operation in human history. I honestly don't know what's more bizarre about this story: the smuggling method, the submarines that transported the cargo, the quantity, the plan, how the gang was organized inside the submarines, or the value of the shipment. This story doesn't feel like it belongs on planet Earth because the ending is stranger than anything we've described. It all starts with one of the most dangerous and terrible things happening on this planet: the trafficking of weapons, people, and drugs. For years and years, every government in the world has shared one goal: to stop the 3 most dangerous trades on Earth. If we focus specifically on drug trafficking, it has several major global markets. Some countries exist primarily to manufacture and sell to the rest of the world. Afghanistan, for example, was ranked number 1. 85% of the world's drugs came from there. Growing the poppy plant in Afghanistan was completely normal, like growing tomatoes. But after the liberation of Afghanistan and the Taliban taking power, they cracked down on this crop with an iron fist. Today, Afghanistan, which once supplied 85% of the world's drugs, exports 0, not a single gram. Who was competing with Afghanistan in the region? Bashar al-Assad and his network. But after the liberation of Syria, that industry also shut down completely. Now, the biggest suppliers in the world today are Mexico, Peru, Bolivia, and Colombia, which is currently considered the most dangerous and important country in this industry. All of them are in South America. How are these drugs transported? Either by land when the shipment is headed to America or across the Atlantic Ocean, or by air when headed to Europe. The most well-known method is through Caribbean Sea pirates. These individuals have old ships and roam the seas. Their job is to transport drugs. But if Coast Guard forces try to intercept them, they have a well-known tactic. They kidnap people and take them as hostages. If the Coast Guard or Air Force moves against them, they immediately say, "We have hostages. Don't come near us." They might have 50 hostages, and everything is recorded and live-streamed. The whole thing would become an international scandal, so in most cases, no one can get close to them. Air trafficking usually fails due to strict airport security procedures. As for America, smuggling there is neither easy nor difficult. The options are endless: cars, trains, even horse-drawn carts, or trained wild animals that cross borders. By air, drones, and there are even catapults that launch shipments over the border, and trained birds of prey. By sea, countless methods. Imagine that with all these options, the most commonly used method is still sea smuggling. A small, remotely operated boat that leaves one of those countries and arrives on the American coast at night. This has been going on for years with no end in sight, and the war between drug gangs and the world's governments continues. Now imagine, combating this industry costs the world $2 trillion per year. Just in enforcement. And we haven't even talked about the social damage and destruction caused by these substances. The innovation in this industry never stops. Assad's system, for example, used to hide drugs inside tomatoes, watermelons, electrical cables, children's toys, and even inside sheep. But shipments kept getting caught, so every day a new method had to be invented. I told you all of this first so you understand the big picture of this dirty trade, and second so you appreciate how difficult the challenge is, and understand that the hero of this story wasn't just some ordinary genius. He was someone who had to come up with something completely new, something that would shatter all human expectations. In 2021, the godfather of the drug trade in Colombia, whose name remains unknown to this day, decided to shut down his operation completely. Someone at this level doesn't leave the industry without a dramatic exit. So he said, "I want to make the greatest farewell deal in the history of drug trafficking. 15 tons. To put that in perspective, every smuggling method, every shipment in history, combined, has never reached even 1 ton in a single operation. 1,000 kilograms of drugs would be enough to flood the planet. This man was talking about 15 tons. He began working on the plan. Dozens of proposals were made, but ultimately they reached one conclusion. A shipment like this can only be moved by submarines. But buying a submarine is impossible. Even if you had all the money in the world, turning the Kremlin and the White House into car washes would be easier than buying a military submarine. So the only solution was to build one. How does a drug lord build a submarine? He asked his people to bring him the best and smartest mechanical engineer in the country. But he didn't stop at one engineer. He kidnapped an entire team, 12 engineers and several maintenance technicians, welders, mechanical, electrical, electronics, mechatronics engineers, and specialists in various fields. This man was extremely organized. They were transported to a secret location in one of Colombia's jungles. He arranged the engineers and technicians into teams, appointed a project leader, and offered them an unimaginable sum. If the project succeeded, each one of them would receive $100 million. The project got underway. After 1 month, the first results came in. The project leader told him that building a submarine from scratch was impossible, and the best approach was to convert old ships into submarines. The boss said, "I don't care, do whatever it takes, just make it work." The project leader proposed building 8 prototype models. They'd fill them with dirt and release them in the ocean. If not, they'd keep developing until they reached the optimal design. The cartel boss said, "Do whatever you want. You have an unlimited budget. I just need this to succeed." And after 6 months, the test succeeded. The submarines became real. Model 1, Escobar, 15 meters long, blue-gray in color. Rear section, 2 meters. Engine. Middle section, 6 meters for gang members. Front section, the largest, for the contraband. Exactly 8 tons, not a gram more or less. This submarine doesn't fully submerge. A small portion stays above water to allow air in for the people inside. It was designed using precise engineering and physics calculations accounting for water salinity, weight, and engine operation, so that only one device exists inside it, the engine. Why? Because this is a 15-meter submarine whose radar signature is no bigger than a coin, so it had to be operated in a way that made it invisible to radar. No ventilation device, no filter, no water pump, no anything, just like a sealed water bottle. The submarine was coated in a rubber-like plastic material to prevent radar wave reflection. You might be thinking, the engine makes noise, which means sound waves that radar can detect. But here's what they did. They built the engine with what they called a bullet system. It fires just once, with enormous pressure and force, for exactly 5 minutes. Then it shuts off, and the submarine continues in a single direction toward its target, like winding up a toy and releasing it. Thanks to the carefully calculated balance between the submarine's weight, its buoyancy, and its course, it was designed to reach its target at a specific time without being detected by radar. Model 2, Chile, identical to the first model, but with 2 additions, 20 meters in length and a fuel tank. Since its destination was Europe, it needed to be able to restart the engine. Model 3, Diver. This model fully submerges under the ocean's surface. It has an automatic section that can surface above water, equipped with cameras and sensors to scan the route. It has a simple air intake system that draws air from above. If surveillance or radar is detected, the submarine surfaces slightly to ventilate internally, then submerges again. This model is more luxurious. You can live inside it for up to 2 months. Model 4, battery-powered, with an extremely fast and powerful engine connected to approximately 200 large batteries. Its incredible advantage was speed and power, but the range was very limited, just 70 kilometers. The solution? The front of the submarine has a suspension system, a long cable, that attaches it to a pirate ship. Once it gets close enough to the coast, it detaches and continues on its own. If police stop the ship en route, the cable is cut, the electric motor kicks in. Police deal with the innocent pirates who have nothing on them, and the submarine completes its journey safely. Once police release the pirates, they go back and retrieve the submarine again. You could say these inventors hacked the planet using just 4 models, all of them converted from old ships, none of them containing any radar signature whatsoever, and the entire project took only 6 months. If they'd had a year, they would have invented a new SpaceX. Now they had their models. The cartel boss ordered 15 submarines to be built. The cargo was prepared for distribution to every continent. In 2022, the plan entered execution. But before we get to what happened, you need to know that this cartel boss didn't just build his own private NASA, he also had spies everywhere and had insiders within the police. The shipment headed to the United States was 15 tons. Waiting for it would be 20 police cars with their personnel. But these police weren't real police. 18 of those cars belonged to the gang disguised as law enforcement. They'd appear to arrest the gang members and take them to police stations, but in reality, some of the cars would veer off to another location. They might sacrifice half a ton, but in exchange, 14.5 tons would escape. Meanwhile, American intelligence received word the greatest smuggling operation in history was about to take place. The method would be epic, and the goal was to close the book on drug trafficking forever. When something like this happens, every intelligence agency in the world goes on high alert. Imagine 33 countries participating in a search and surveillance operation. Not a single person in the entire universe knew how the operation would be carried out. Not the inventors who were isolated in a jungle, and no one knew anything about them. Only the cartel boss knew everything. He had 2 wings. Wing 1 was the submarine project leader and his team. Wing 2 was the fake police chief, who would manage the operation once the shipment arrived in America. Did any intelligence agency in the world know anything? No. Did anyone know when the shipments would launch? No. Did anyone know which country each shipment was headed to? Also, no. Imagine how secret and organized this was. On June 13, 2022, the submarines launched. Each convoy headed in its direction. Some toward Europe, some toward America, some toward Asia and China. About 6 hours after the submarines left Colombia, the cartel boss contacted the police patrol chief and told him the submarines are on their way to Miami, and here is where the real story began. Suddenly, without any warning, police descended on the Europe-bound shipment. How? No one knows. 5 submarines in the ocean were caught before passing through the Strait of Gibraltar. The China-bound submarines? Same thing. Police appeared from everywhere and arrested the gang members. In response, the cartel boss made his decision. It's over. 10 submarines caught means 50% of the cargo is lost. He decided to disappear and flee Colombia. As for the remaining 50%, shockingly, the US-bound shipment passed through completely unopposed. Did the gang receive it? Yes, they did, but not for the cartel boss. The patrol chief took the entire quantity and moved it to a different location. The cartel boss contacted him. Why did you deviate from the plan? Why did you go somewhere else? He replied, the route was under surveillance and I was worried about the shipment, so I moved it somewhere safer. The boss asked how much of the drugs the police found on them. He said, not a gram. They didn't find anything on us. The boss asked, how? We were supposed to have 2 police cars and 1 for you. The chief replied, they're all on our side. Don't worry about it. Everything is safe. But then, something absolutely no one could have predicted. The patrol chief had planned to keep the drugs for himself all along. After moving the cargo to the new location, he killed all the members of his own newly formed gang, took the entire 15 tons, and fled to Cuba. Think about it. He was the one who tipped off authorities about the ocean shipments so they'd get caught, while he executed his own plan with the shipment in his possession. The original cartel boss who wanted a dramatic exit from the drug world, he got nothing. All his cargo was gone. He never collected his money. He vanished. To this day, no one knows where he is. The fake patrol chief? No one knows where he is either. Some sources say he escaped on a luxury yacht. Others say he fled in a military aircraft. The engineers and scientists who invented the submarines? God rest their souls. The cartel boss had them all killed. Not one of them made it out of that jungle. Now, one final question. The submarines in the ocean couldn't be detected by radar. So how were they caught? Remember I said 33 countries were on standby. The moment word arrived that the operation had begun, they spread across all local and regional waters. No matter how advanced a submarine is, it can only move along one general trajectory. If you know the route, intercepting it becomes straightforward. How do we know all these details? First, from the gang members who were arrested inside the submarines. Second, approximately 2 months ago, individuals connected to the operation were arrested and revealed everything that happened. Third, police have all 15 submarines. Every model that was ever built is now in the hands of intelligence agencies. There is a massive media blackout on this story to this day. No one knows anything beyond what I've told you. What's remarkable is that, according to some sources, this cartel boss's reputation within drug trafficking circles surpasses even that of Pablo Escobar. Yet there has been no official statement identifying him. This makes it the biggest smuggling operation in history and, at the same time, potentially the most valuable one ever attempted. If it had succeeded, 30 tons would have been smuggled. To understand that scale, sprinkle a little extra salt on your food and see how it affects the flavor. These things are measured in grams. When we talk about 30 tons, we're talking about a quantity that could change planet Earth. That was our story for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video.